So in that moment where I see someone recognize, like, wait, either I'm not as alone as I thought, or I don't have to be as alone, or I do belong, even if it's belonging to myself, or that I belong to this world, or I belong to this society. I think that for me is probably the richest medicine that there is. If they walk away with some other tools, amazing. But if like that can be the baseline for me, that someone just feels seen and has some sense of belonging, that's what I'm aiming for.
Um, Hey Natasha, it has been quite a while since we've seen
Yes.
each other.
Yeah.
So we met, I guess, the first time at an authentic relating festival in Denmark.
Yes, the first one.
So that's in 2015 or 16.
Mm.
And then we did a couple of authentic relating festivals together after that. And
Yes.
then we kind of went down different paths a bit. Like I went pretty deep in the circling and surrender leadership world, and
Right.
as far as I know, you've gone pretty deep in the authentic relating world with art.
Yes.
So I hope we can, yeah, hear a bit more about that in this call. Um, but yeah, the first thing I would like to just open with you is what actually brought you into this stuff that I now call the relating arts. But yeah, this ecology of practice, what
Yeah.
brought you into this?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say I love relating arts. I love that title. So thank you for passing that along. I really appreciate it. Um, and I guess it's not ironic that I'm with Art International, which is Authentic Relating Trainings International. Um, Yeah, I either got into this at the same time as you talked about, as a, like kind of our origin. I had kind of entered it through the authentic movement world. As you know, a common friend of ours, Nuno, who I just ran into, incredibly on the street yesterday after also not seeing her for many years, and we were talking about the good old days. And when I went to the Authentic Relating Festival, like something just, some doors just blew open in me when I realized that there was a whole world that was doing what I had been painfully and on my own trying to access. So that is like the amplification of that origin. But I would say that it started really since childhood. I realize now that I probably consider myself a deeply relational person, and I always have been. And I was in a non-relational family, and I was in a non-relational culture, for the most part. And so I often felt like I was deeply yearning for something, and often felt like a, either you would say an ugly duckling or a cuckoo or whatever metaphor you want to use for that. So I had probably around the age of like early 20s realizing that something was not being met in me. And this was, of course, because I'm older than I look. There was like, I was cobbling together for many years trying to figure out what was this thing? What was this thing that I was so deeply yearning for? And I found little life-saving threads to hold on to that got me up until that point. And then suddenly, when I met you and all of that happened at that festival, and all of this, what I had started to access in my body through authentic movement, suddenly I realized that this is where my real, like my body, but like especially in my throat and in my sense of communication, that is where I really express and want to be known, and how I access others and connection. So it just erupted, I would say, there in 2016. And then it just like has been a bit of a rocket ship since then.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And can you say a bit more about what has happened for you since then? Like, what has the journey been like?
Yeah, it first happened that I started doing any authentic relating or anything in the relating arts that I could, figure from that first festival on. I did get, of course, I was teaching dance at that time and going really deep into that. But it really didn't escalate until 2018 when I lost both of my fathers within a month of each other, both my bio dad and my bonus father. And when my bonus father died, he left me an inheritance. And the best thing about that, the best thing about money, I find, is the choice that it brings. And at the time I was struggling a bit. It was, I have some physical conditions that sometimes makes it very difficult for me to rely on my body for work. And I was really like, what is it that I'm deeply passionate about, but that I've been holding back on because of money and therefore time and energy and effort? Like what would I like to do with this money? And I was like, I want to invest in something that I'm deeply passionate about. And it became very clear to me that it was through this work. And I think like that day I Googled like what are authentic relating trainings. I saw that there was one the following weekend in Amsterdam with this company that I had kind of pegged some years before that was in the United States, but I was traveling a lot less to the US and I saw that they were coming to Europe. I booked a plane ticket that I think I got the last seat on that training. I booked that plane ticket and about mid-morning on the first day of that training, I was like, this is it. This is the medicine work that I feel just a full fuck yes to in my body. Um, and even by lunchtime, the co-founder of that company already knew that I was a facilitator due to my application. He was like, we need to train leadership for Europe, like, and you're part of that wave. And I was like, yep. It just kind of happened that quickly. And it kind of again took off from there. And I have been now a part of that organization since, yeah, January of 2019. Yeah.
So you've been leading a lot of workshops in Europe the last couple of years.
Correct.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you say something about what do you what do you see happen at these workshops for the people who come and participate? Like
Yeah.
what is it that you like you spoke about this moment on the morning of your first workshop where something landed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I imagine that that's you see that happening for others now. And can you speak a
Yeah.
bit into that? Like what is the medicine? What is the gift here?
That's such a good question. I know it's like my heart pounding because I'm like putting myself in that room or I'm putting myself with my one-on-one clients, or as we'll get further into it about what's really happening for me is just I'm doing this out in the world as much as possible every day. And that moment where I think the cornerstone of my value is belonging. It's suddenly I see like these eyes like open up and I believe that it first happens with like, oh my gosh, I'm being seen. I'm being seen. And then what happens after that is maybe wait a second, I'm allowing myself to be seen. That it's not so much like, oh, wait a second, with this, there's a duo thing happening here. It's one thing for me to see you, like I'm actively looking for you. But I can only do that if you're allowing yourself to be seen. It is deeply, deeply relational. That needs both of those things needs to happen. It doesn't exist if only one of us is doing the action, right? So when I see that basically that guard dropping and what I think of as all of our protectors, because I do believe that with some exceptions, and of course, neurodivergence and cultural, I mean, I always want to make sure that there's exceptions. I believe as a whole that humans, you know, were meant to coexist and to belong and to be in community and to be in tribe. And the individualism of the way that society has gone, and there's beautiful benefits for that. I'm not going to poo-poo that, but something that we haven't tracked is often what in our move towards individuality, we have left community and we've left belonging. And I think there's some deep wounds and some deep scars in that. And it just ends up isolating. And that's why there's such a loneliness epidemic. So in that moment where I see someone recognize, like, wait, either I'm not as alone as I thought, or I don't have to be as alone, or I do belong, even if it's belonging to myself, or that I belong to this world, or I belong to this society. I think that for me is probably the richest medicine that there is. If they walk away with some other tools, amazing. But if like that can be the baseline for me, that someone just feels seen and has some sense of belonging, that's what I'm aiming for.
And when you say belonging, it's like I think the way I translate it into my experience is like, oh, I'm actually welcome.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to hide these parts of me that I've been habitually holding back from the world for such a long time because I thought that they were wrong or
Yeah.
that they were unique to me also, that like I was uniquely damaged in some way
Yeah.
or didn't know how to human right. And it's like, oh, but here that seems to be welcome. And it's like, and it's normal. It's like
Yeah.
it's what we do as humans, kind of.
I think that's spot on. I think as you're saying that, I can immediately flash back to every training that I've led, and one person just so vulnerably shares some deep, concern or something that they've really held on to, and they go like this, and half the people in the room go,
Mm.
"Yeah." Like finger waggle, yes, resonate. And they're like, "What?" It's like, and for me, it's like the most like human thing, whatever that they're said, like not, it's not even some, really deeply shameful thing. And just to watch that awe. So yes, that happens almost every time I would think in my experience. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and there is something to how, at least that's been my experience from leading quite a lot the last 10, 15 years. Just that, well, there's always a uniqueness to it, right? Because it's a unique human being and they come with their particular storyline and their particular hangups that look, yeah, just in that way. And then it's also just, I don't know, I don't have a number for it, but there's only that many forms that things
Yes,
fit into. It's
exactly.
like we have the same sort of emotional setup and the same nervous systems and
Yeah.
setup.
There's
And
only so many variations.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's still beautiful to see sort of how it comes up,
Yeah.
even though it is often the same things. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, even sometimes you turn to just like basic sort of yin and yang polarity. It's like everything, and of course that's not absolutely true, but in some way everything can be reduced to like, okay, I'm not showing up fully with myself, or I'm not willing to show myself, or I'm not willing to listen enough. I'm
Yeah.
not being receptive, and
Yeah.
that seems to be what gets most people in trouble. That they lean a
Yeah.
bit too much to one side or
Yeah.
are a bit collapsed in both.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
I'm curious what you're learning. Like you've been doing this a lot now and
Yeah.
for many years. Like are you still how are you developing? What are you learning at just now?
Yeah. What am I learning just now? Um, one thing that I've learned is um, that I don't like to use this so much. Is that is that that I am uh, that I need to stay more away from like intellectualism and using my brain because that's not my particular forte. Not to vilify it at all. In fact, I need to surround myself with people who have those things because like that's not my strong suit. Like that I am like a deeply relational person. Um, and I get into a little bit of yeah, that's not where my wealth lies. Like I still need to develop it so that I'm not just like bypassing, just being like, "Oh, I'm not good at that, so let me just like, go away from that." So I need to continue learning things. But for me, it's maybe my answer to your question is like not so much what I'm learning, is that what I'm still unlearning. Like I'm really unlearning pretty consistently. Like, so I do a lot of one-on-one client work. I mentor people. For lack of a better word, I coach. I still would like to find an alternate to what that is because I do very little coaching, but I do kind of offer tools. So I'm still trying to figure out what that is. But it seems like in every single session, as I'm applying downloads for what I've picked up on my own journey, whether it's come from other people or whether it's come in my own experience, is almost every time I seem to be in service to someone, it's in service to myself. Like it's just like I go, oh my God, like I'm healing myself like whilst I'm in the healing. It's a very talk about now that I'm thinking about it, talk about a relational person. Like, it's like it's not in the who is it for? It is for them. But I get this amazing kickback. I seem to draw clients who have a very particular need for my medicine and my medicine journey. I always do like chemistry calls with people and just see like if I feel like all of this stuff in my body, I'm like, oh, yep, I can be with you there. And so what I guess I'm learning slash unlearning is just to really continue to hone that voice inside of me that takes me there and to realize that every time I'm in service to someone else that is feeding me and my medicine journey as well, I think would probably be my answer to that question.
Yeah, I think I recognize that well, there just is something deeply, I was about to say satisfying, but it doesn't quite cover it. Pleasurable
Yeah,
for me when I do good work with other people. It's like this like sense of, oh, I'm actually of service here. I'm
yeah,
actually doing good, I hope.
yeah.
Uh, that yeah, that is just very, very pleasing and what I
Rewarding
want
is
to be.
probably it is rewarding the
Mm,
word because for me it's deeply rewarding. And what I notice is the more and more I follow that aliveness and that call, I actually have more energy at the end of my session than I did going in. And that's where I know like something's happened. Like I'm just like as I often have said this is something that I cracked my own code years ago with this, is that I believe I serve the gods of connection. That's how I've thought about it. And really, literally at the end of like, so I'm like, I've served my gods today. Like at the end of the day, if I felt like I was in service to that, whether it's just like briefly out on the street or in an brief interaction here or there, or in a deep session or in a weekend workshop, that to me is like that's everything to me now.
mm,
Yeah.
great. Can you? I'm not quite sure how this is going to go, but let's see.
Okay.
I would like you to try to explain to me what is at the core of authentic relating for you? Like, what is this practice? Like, what are people invited to do? And how is it new or different from what most people usually do?
I I always get a little bit like, oh no, like why didn't I every time I go like I knew I was going to talk about authentic relating today. Why didn't I look up the definition? Because every time somebody asks me like and it's on the spot and it's going to be recorded, I'm like, oh my God, like my colleagues are going to cringe because they're like, Natasha, haven't you memorized the definition of authentic relating now? And I'm just like, no, but I don't know why I have a resistance to that. I think it's because I usually am just like, I don't want to define it. I just want to show you. I want to just like a lot of times I end up really being in the practice of authentic relating. And by the time somebody's like, what do you do? Or what is authentic relating? I'm like, you know how I've just been with you for the last 20 minutes? Like, that's authentic relating, you know? And then I get to unpack it. I was like, remember when you said something and I got to say like um, like, wow, like what I just felt in my body when you were saying that. Remember, like, how did that feel for you? And they were like, yeah, it felt amazing. And I was like, and remember when I like really like reflected back what I heard and told it they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's that's authentic relating. So
Mm.
that's my why of like why I end up getting a bit flustered because I think maybe also I haven't really heard a definition that really satisfies me as much as that. But if I had to just like break it down for those who are informational, it's like it is a set of practices and tools that like help for me to be more myself with you and to allow you to be more yourself with me. And so again, that goes into connection, belonging, unmasking, welcoming, um, being with, nervous system regulation. Like it encompasses all of these things. It's not just like one simple thing. So I think that's why I've always felt a bit limited about the definition. So sometimes depending on who I'm talking to, so I'm sitting next to somebody in the plane, there, what is that? I will just pop up whatever it is that I'm sensing already after talking to them. So like I was leading a course in Utrecht a few months back, and I was having breakfast before I was going, and I sat next to this couple, and I said something to them. We started chatting, and then they asked me, they're like, "So what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually leading a 2-day course, and we already had one course yesterday and today." And they said, "Oh, what do you teach?" And I just looked at them and I was watching their dynamic and I had been watching the way they talked even before I started talking to them. And I said, "I teach people how to fight better." And they both went, "Oh my God, tell us more." And they instantly like just they got so live because I was just like, yeah, these two people, they love each other and they're spicy. Like I could tell the way that they were already like poking at each other and they're like, give me your email address. Give me what's your Instagram? What's this?" And so usually I just like follow like what I'm just sensing here. I might call it out and they're just like, "Oh my God, we need that." And I said, "Yeah, I have a sense. I just had intuition that maybe that's something that you guys would be interested in." And yeah, she's of course reached out to me since then. So somebody else, I just might be like, authentic relating is the full tool for being more in connection with yourself so that you can be more in connection with others. And then I see that little thing because I have an idea the way that they've been. So I usually like, yeah, I really offer it whatever I feel, what I'm feeling is most alive with this person.
Mm.
That's my very unclear, non-intellectual answer to that question. How did that go?
Yeah, I like it, or it's like it for me. It points to like there's many entry points I guess a different way of saying it is that before we talked about how our suffering is quite similar, and then well, it's also different, or like some people suffer more in some ways, and
Yeah.
that's usually the entry point I find, or often
Yeah.
the entry point to want to do these things, because
Yeah.
like it's painful for me to be in these unconstructive fights with my partner all the
Yeah.
time, and I can kind of feel that there's a different way of doing it, and so like, well, it kind of solves that problem,
Yeah.
and for someone else it might be something different. And then I'm still I still want to get closer to like, yeah, but what's the actual difference in being slash doing that you're teaching? Like what?
Well, we teach a tremendous amount of like we're giving a lot of tools. Like one, I would say like the main tool is like that we always say, if we can give you one tool as we go in here, it's like how we develop listening skills. Because the listening skills are pretty essential to knowing and being known. So even if I learn listening skills, I actually can go home to somebody who hasn't learned them and actually said, this is how I would love to be listened to. I mean, I can actually spread them around and making something. So a lot of times if we just see things modeled, like again, I'm teaching or sharing the tools of authentic relating all day, every day. You don't need to come to a course for me to get it out in the world. Um, And it, for me, I think it's one of the hugest things that's happening in the world right now that's causing so much division. It's like we're not truly listening to each other. We're not really taking that moment to hear what's really going on. And it's also in that, it's that other people are sharing from a place is I'm not used to being listened to. So I'm going to scream this out or I'm going to yell this out or something. I'm not used to it. So I don't, also, that ends up being the way that I share. So if I can figure out healthier ways of communication and like just being like, oh, if I really want to be listened to, but this person doesn't have listening skills, what are the best ways that I can increase my chances of truly being listened to? So it is really at the core communication skills. And I would say that's the cornerstone of the work of authentic relating.
And how do you do it? How do you
How do I
become better at listening?
sign up for the course, Peter? No, just joking. Yeah. Um, I think the first thing is just about slowing down. I think that's again the absolute it's so unfancy. It's so simplistic. And yet, even if I'm again out in the wild and someone is trying to share something to me, I'll just say, listen, I really, really want to understand you and I really want to get this. And I'm noticing like it's going very fast for me. I move a bit slower. Could we just slow down? And a lot of times, I'm doing two things. One is I am slowing them down so that I can really process and get it. And every once in a while, pause them, reflect back, like, did I hear that? And then it's also calming their nervous system. So they're actually like, okay, I can actually sit with what's more essential. Oh, this person's actually taking the time to listen to me. Okay, so I can maybe stop yelling it out. I can stop like my own, they start calming down. Everything starts to get clearer and clearer and come into more focus. And it's a lot easier for me to be with. So even just the slowing down is an absolute essential practice for like communication, conversation, and everything in this society, at least in Danish society, in this developed nation society. I just come back from 3 months in Africa, where the pace is much different, and I notice a lot more community and a lot more connectivity. Might be related, um, but in this drive to speed up, pack everything in capitalist society and everything like that, it's like packing everything in. It's very hard to be relational. It's very hard to land. It's hard to, if we're moving faster than the speed of sensation, if we're moving faster than our emotional body can be with, how is that all working? So if we can just slow down, like this speed of me talking, this isn't my slowest, but this is nowhere near what I used to talk like. Like this is a very, very cultivated speech pattern. Still, when I get very excited, it speeds up. Um, and I notice how dysregulated I get when I start speeding up. So if I can slow down, I drop into my heart. I'm noticing my breath, I'm noticing my body. I'm noticing as you're talking to me, I'm leaving my body, I'm going up in my head. I'm not really listening to you. So if I can just like take what you're saying, I can pause you occasionally. We have all these tools. So reflecting back, like, hey, what I can I just before we go on too much more, can I hear that like you weren't feeling understood earlier? Is that right? And like you just watch them drop as it lands, it becomes now not just starts to create this flow between us. Suddenly, we are not polarized. Suddenly, we are joined. Suddenly, there's not so much separating us. There's that belonging piece, there's that connection piece. And that's where we can go from there. So that's the basis of, I think, a really good listening session.
Hmm. Would it make sense for you to say that? Well, I can say it in a different way because it does make sense for me.
Yeah.
For me, like one thing is form and another is embodiment, or what
Yeah.
I would call the basics. And you were speaking to both right now,
Yeah.
as I heard you at least, that there's like an embodied sense of, okay, I'm actually available now to
Yeah.
take you in more fully. And
Yeah.
that seems to be a very internal move that can be cultivated over time and through practice.
Yeah.
And then there's something that seems to be more in the form that is, I can reflect back what I just heard you say
Yeah.
and then check with you if that was what you
Yeah.
actually said. And that's like a skill or
Yeah.
yeah, a form we can use. And they
Yes.
go together in some way, but they're also quite different.
Yes.
And and at least I notice myself having become a lot more interested in the sort of the embodiment, the
Yeah.
formless. Yeah, and I imagine it's similar for you. And I'm curious how that shows up when you teach, where I imagine you have to do a bit of both.
Yes. Yeah,
How do you
very much
handle that?
so. Yeah, yeah. I'm totally resonating. And I now it's like a little bit of a point of pride. Um am seeing how formless I've gotten. So I often call myself quite a messy teacher. Like I'm here to just like embody messiness. I notice like it feels a lot more genuine for me. Like for a while in the beginning, like anything, I know that you practice qigong and like whatever, like everything about just like learning the form and like making sure the form is perfection and like that until something starts to attach to you and you start to figure out how to make it your own. So it's just like I love that. When I studied photography years ago. In the beginning, it was so rigid. And I was like, but this is an art form. Why is it so rigid? And my teacher was like, because I want to teach you the impeccable, perfect, like isolated way to do the form. And then as soon as you get it, chuck it all out. Like who cares about aperture, whatever, but that needs to happen. So that's what I usually introduce in my course is like this is going to feel stilted and awkward and stiff and kind of isolating and weird as you go into it. You're going to everyone like goes, "Oh my God." As soon as I've practiced authentic relating, I realize how inauthentic I actually feel in the beginning. I'm like, now I just prepare people for that because I noticed that was happening before it gets embodied. So now I'm just like, I give permission to people to be awkward for a while. And I said, even can you include that in your like going back home to your partners or to your families or to your colleagues and be like, I learned a new modality. It's going to sound really weird in the beginning. Please bear with me while I'm awkwardly trying to figure out how to make this my own. So I name that a lot. And so the best thing I can do, like during the course, is to be like, this is the very clear form, and this is the way it shows up in me now. Like, and so I try to just model a lot of permission for people to not try to feel that they have to get it perfection. These are all aspirational, like things, but for somebody ultimately, if we're all like just making our way towards these things, that's, and we're putting in effort, for me at the end of the day, that's what it is. So I really name both of those things as it's happening for me. And I find that it's had really beautiful results.
Yeah. Yeah, I like hearing you say that. There's something like I have some kind of frustration with parts of this field of teaching, relating, that where I find that often workshops promise a bit much.
Yeah.
That it's like you go to a weekend workshop and then your whole relational life will be transformed. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely not like maybe I'm
Yeah.
uniquely slow at this, but for
Yeah.
me, it's taken many, many years of practice, like a lot of workshops, also a lot of messing up my relationships and trying to
Yeah.
talk to people in new ways and failing and learning and going
Yes.
through that.
Yeah.
And and sure, you can sort of get some insights on a weekend workshop, but you're likely not going to go home and fix your relationship with your parents that has been difficult your whole life like that.
I use that exact same I use that exact same analogy about how many times where someone like on the first day, it's a 2-day intensive, our level one foundations course. And I now know, like, as people are leaving on the first day, I was like, please do not go home and confront your most intense relationship, like, and like think that this is gonna land, like start off like in the shallow end of the pool, like, just like go out and be gentle with it. Just go out and just be curious about the people that you meet tonight. Stay there. And I, again, like have learned from experience of people actually coming in on day two and being like, yeah, well, I went home, confronted my partner about some deep challenge, and I'm like, oh, so I also agree with you. I really try to just say like, hey, that's why even in the workshop I build in, I'm like, if you can go away from here, just having a beautiful experience and just knowing what it was to like be seen and what that feels like, and that's a yearning for you, like that's something,
Hmm.
you know. That alone is something, and it might be everybody's coming into these things from such a different part in their journey. Like by the time I went to that workshop, I had done like 20 years of self-development work on myself. And so like I felt like I didn't even learn that much new on that first thing, but what was amazing is like I felt like I had all of these tools scattered in my life. And suddenly here's a shed, and here's an organization system, and here's a way to put this tool and this tool together and become a super tool. And I was like, oh my God. And that's when I was like, that's why they, I think, escalated me so quickly, because I'd done that. But there was people there I remember there was like um, a young woman who pulled her elderly father in just against all his, he was like grumpy and didn't really want to be there. And he hadn't asked the first question about this self, and he started off at this different place. And so if he went away, he had just opened up one little bit towards the end, but that was miraculous for him. And that was beautiful for all of us to just go, yeah, we're all, as you said, there's only so many different variations on like what's happening and like our wounds and our patterns and everything like that. But then we're also utterly like, we get to see how special is everyone is, because they're in a different place, they're from a different culture, they're in a different gender, they're a different race, they're different sexual orientation, about how like we can have some beautiful framework to meet each other there in both our similarities and our differences. And that's what gets me so excited about the field
Mm,
and like bringing all of this diversity into it and just being with each other and just going like, "Oh, hi human. I'm human."
mm. Yeah, that really seems to be a big part of these practices, right? To sort of, oh, I've to, to say it, it's like, have you been noticing that you've been hiding a lot? And because I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I sort of went into a workshop room and I was like, oh, damn, I've been hiding a lot of myself. And
Yeah.
I've been spending quite a lot of years on sort of figuring out all the ways that I'm hiding and maybe hiding a little bit less, or at least being conscious about the ways I'm hiding. And that
Yeah.
makes it very available for me to see that you might be hiding a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that maybe you don't have to if you don't want to.
Maybe you don't have to if you don't want to. I think that's the most beautiful way to put it because there's definitely still ways that I'm just like, oh, I notice I'm not feeling safe right now and I need to hide this. So I'm not going to call somebody out hiding and then that they should be ashamed of hiding.
Mm,
And this has become what you talk about hiding really lights up to me is something that I've been working a lot with, especially with my one-on-one clients, is shame.
mm,
And like shame is like really I've just recently thought about it. I was like, it's dark magic. It is like, it's the most self-cloaking, like, like protective and like it's so surreal the way that it works in the system. And like we can even be ashamed about our shame and then that shame is then covering up it's like there's it's like this magic of like this those never ending handkerchiefs that you pull out and you're like, oh my God, I thought this was the end of it
uh,
and this was the end of it, and so much of that hiding. So I'm always like, okay, how can we just like get one more level down and one more, so that hiding that you're talking about, it's like again going back to the welcoming. It's just like it's okay, like I'll be with that, I'll be with you here. And I don't want to take away, another thing I realize, I don't actually want to take away anyone's pain or anyone's suffering. I just don't, I just want to keep people company while they're there, because that's the added layer of suffering that I think is what's happening that I can help with.
mm,
It's like my suffering, my pain was essential to my journey and my healing and whatever. I if it had probably been there was probably times where somebody did take it away and I didn't get to process it or I didn't get to actually fully be with it. But I was so fucking lonely for so long with it. And that's where almost my major suffering was. So if I can just keep someone company on that journey, or that, and that's where some of the hiding needs to actually relax a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm hiding.
mm,
Therefore, I can be with you while you still feel that you need to hide and protect yourself. But there is that a little bit of that lessening. We're getting a little bit closer. We're getting one more handkerchief deeper into that process. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, that brings me on to like I think there can sometimes be this misunderstanding that being authentic is to sort of be ripped open and show your guts to everyone, and that's super authentic, and that's how you sort of should always be. And I think what I just heard you speak to now is the more I don't know, I think I see it as a more mundane and also more real way of talking about authenticity. It's like just what's here, and what's here can very well be like, yeah, I kind of like you, but I also feel a little bit withdrawn, or like I don't really feel an impulse to getting closer right now, or to sort of reveal a lot of emotional material about myself, but if we can sit here together, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. And
Yeah.
and at least in my experience, like those moments of being together in so just the realness of what's here is are actually a lot more intimate than the sort of attempts to like oh, I have all this darkness, and I have to be with you in it.
Yeah. Something I've always appreciated about you. I've really felt that from you always. That's my earliest memory of you. And I was like, just so yeah, I felt that you really embodied that since I met you. Yeah, so it's something I've appreciated about you. Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Mm, I keep having this thing I want to ask, and it keeps disappearing because I get excited about other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, let's see if I can remember. Yeah, it's a worry I have that maybe you can help me reflect on.
Yeah.
That I find that this field of practice is super rich and there's so much learning to be had in it. And like I have benefited so much from it and I've seen so many people benefit a lot from it. And then sometimes I get worried about addiction to having connection facilitated. Um, and there's this, it's come up for me a few times. It's like, I don't want to sell connection.
Yeah.
I want to sell growth or like capacity to show up in your own
Yeah.
life or
Yeah.
to become better at listening or some of the stuff we've talked about. But I
Yeah.
don't want people to go to my workshops to get the connection they don't have in life
Yeah.
because that should preferably be in life.
Yeah.
And there's something that it becomes a weirdly sort of reified
Mm, mm.
if sort of there's a lack of connection and people are lonely in their lives and then they have to go to workshops that are facilitated like by people like us to
Yeah.
actually experience intimacy and connection with people like that feels the wrong way around.
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was not a very clear question, but maybe you get
No,
what
no,
I'm
I
talking
just want
about.
to be with you. I want to be with you in it. So like I think like I'm hearing your concern about, I mean, A, I kind of can share something about the commodification of like this type of thing. And so what I'm hearing is a little bit of like dependency on someone else for connection. Like there is a little bit of that uh framework. And like that makes sense. Like that's yeah, like when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, ugh, like I also don't want that. I hadn't even thought about that, but I'm like, oh, I don't want that either. So I think you're perfectly valid in having that fear. What comes up for me is and why I noticed I was like, huh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And then I realized with the type of work that I do, that's not really a concern for me because like people are going to come to my level 1 course once. Like, they're not going to come back again. Like if I'm lucky, they come to my level 2 course a few months later. Like I don't do things habitually enough so people aren't very dependent on me. And also, what I'm trying to teach is I'm trying to give the tools of connection to someone so that they go home and they create this for themselves.
Mhm.
So that like I'm usually like when they leave on that Saturday before they come back on Sunday, I'm like, go out tonight. I was like, if you're going to go out tonight, whether you're going to pick up a carry out at your local Thai place, or if you're going to go out dancing, or you're going to go see friends out tonight, like start applying this, like get curious, like get interested on what's happening, reveal something you might not have. If somebody goes, oh, how are you doing today? Tell them how you really are to a certain degree. Don't like say like, oh my God, just go like, man, I just spent all day at a workshop and I'm feeling jazzed up. Like instead of just going, fine, thanks, how are you? Like, so I'm asking people to go out and instantly start fostering this stuff so that I'm there just to give them some tools. That's my job. Like that's how I'm servicing that. And even when I'm again not teaching a workshop where I'm out on the street, I'm just giving somebody something. And if I happen to give them my Instagram account, I get the constant feedback that people are like, "Oh my God, thank you for talking to me the other day. I went home and had a conversation with my dad, and like it was like this. And so I noticed that that's not a concern that I have because of the way that I'm showing up in this practice.
Hmm.
And I'm really hearing you because I think I can also think about instances where there's like weekly events and people are just going and getting that hole stuffed, you know, without actually doing the thing that's they're getting their hole stuffed. I love this metaphor. I don't know. Sometimes I just like let the metaphors come and I'm not going to question them by somebody else without them actually feeding themselves, actually doing the self thing, or then them turning, getting that, and then passing it on. This is where again that singularity versus the collectivism, the solo versus community, the one versus the tribe, I think comes in. It's like, how do we pass this on and go, this needs to be brought into community and tribe and family or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like in what you just said is also it's not something, it's this paradox where in one way it is somewhat advanced. At least that's been my experience. I've definitely learned a lot from doing what I've done for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I'm in a different place now when I lead than when I was, well, when we met each other,
Yeah.
for sure. And at the same time, I also want to democratize this. It's like
Yeah.
it gets a bit weird if people have to pay us to do workshops for them to relate to each other. Like that's a pretty weird world, right? So
Yeah.
like it must be sort of spread somehow organically or in tribe, as you say. Um,
Yeah, I agree. And I'm in the privileged situation that I can spend, half like I can give generously. I do a lot of things for free. I make sure that like again, I have spaciousness in my time to just be able to like be in service to people all the time without pay, and that finds some balance in me. And also where I am at this point, I have enough of like an income that I can do that, but that's not a privilege everybody has. And there's always this question about like we need to I won't judge it and I'm not going to damn anybody for being like, oh, let's do this to that point, but again that we're empowering people to give those tools so that they don't, it's kind of like being a good therapist. Like you want them to not need you after a while. You want like all of my coaching clients leave me eventually. That's what I'm hoping for, that they get to a point where they're not needing that. And then I can make room for other people that need me to get
hmm,
them on started on their journey. So I also want to hold all of that with some compassion of like, how do I get to the point where I need to like because we live in a capitalist society that we have to like pay rent and
hmm,
buy food and pay for a war that is not ours, that's now causing all of our electricity bills to go up or the gas prices to go up. So I hold all of that with an amount of compassion and try to give wherever I can, whenever I can. And that's a privileged position that I acknowledge. Oh,
yeah. So we're getting close to the end here.
yeah.
If we were going to get a million people to relate in a new way in the coming years and sort of really like this stuff is still relatively niche, although it's existed for many years and in many different forms, still seems niche in default society.
Mm.
What what should we do to sort of show the world that there's really some treasures here and to really bring it out there, you think?
God, that's such I'm like, oh my God, I really want to get that. I really want to get that question right. I was like, Peter, couldn't you have sent me this? Could you have sent me this one question ahead of time? Because this feels so huge. It feels so huge and enormous in such a world where every morning I wake up and I see what's happening in the world, and it breaks my heart every day. But I don't know if this is the right answer, but I'll just go with the first thing that's off of the top of my head is like I am I'm a warrior for love. And for me, love is not like I don't mean that in like the big heart, soft, floofy, cute thing. Like love for me is hard and has multifaceted things, and it's sometimes very tough and sometimes very salty and spicy and all the things. Um, but for me, love is like being in wholeness, is to see things in their entirety. If you want to call it good and bad or positive or negative, all of these labels that we used to do it in. So whenever I see anything that's really hard or rough, I do my best to see what is also possibly there on the other side, because everything contains everything, everything has positive and negative. Everything has dark and a light and shadow and all of that. So if we can slow down and see each other in more wholeness, so that means again, the mask coming off, can I see myself in more wholeness? Can I love myself in more wholeness? Therefore, can I see somebody else in more wholeness? And can I realize that nobody is my enemy, but the things that keep us separate are the things that we are both fighting against or for? Can we see that we're actually all here and that there is actually no other, that we're not separate? We are together? Can we slow down and see each other as that we are all like clinging to this one rock and we're all fighting for our lives in one way or the other? I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that's an answer, but that's what I'm here to fight for. And that's what motivates me every day. And that's what also keeps away the hopelessness whenever I open my computer. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I like that sounds like the message more than the vehicle for the message, which was what I was trying to ask. But I think maybe you could give me a call if you figure out
That
how to
sounds
get a
good.
million people to.
That's great. I'm sure I've got the answer for fixing this planet. I'm sure somewhere in there I've got the answer to fixing this planet. I'm just here to fix one relationship at a time. That's my big aspiration. So, yeah.
Well, lovely talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. It really lit me up and it was great to be in practice with you.